It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going the other way. Charles Dickens, writing of 2 centuries ago. We haven't changed that much. These are the actors who occupy the world stage during the 60s. As the decade develops, we watch them play out their parts. During the decade of the 60s, 500,000 babies join the family of man. Most die young. Some live like their fathers lived, and their fathers' fathers' fathers. No teacher, doctor, preacher, lawyer caters to their needs. Wars and progress pass them by. Not all, by any means, are the wretched of the earth. In the oceans of misery are the islands of plenty, the temperate zones of paradise. You don't have to be a millionaire, but it helps. Have plane, will travel. Surf now, play later. The engines of affluence are hard at work. They sort out traffic, they sort out people. How do you do, Mr. 421-294-869? Just another scrap of software sifting through the hardware. One more wide track fastback in that lane and the traffic jams. From here to eternity. Mobility is not the same as freedom. The rich societies, both East and West, protect their privileges. Not from the poor, but from each other. They are afraid of the dark. Like 2 scorpions in a bottle, the first to sting gets stung. It is the strategy of second strike, the balancing of terror. The vigilantes of peace have had enough. For some, silence shouts loudest. The old empires decay, but imperialism wears many masks. Sometimes no mask at all. Students trade their books for barricades. They're freshman freedom fighters. They share the same heroes, march to the same drummer. In Paris, in Berlin, in Prague. The students of Czechoslovakia know what it is to lose your freedom. The priceless extra of experience. The custodians of traditional morality seem to be losing their grip. There's a new morality at large. It may not be higher, but it sure as hell is looser.
America taught the black people to be violent. We will use that violence to rid ourselves of oppression if necessary. We will be free by any means necessary.
The fire this time.
It really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
1960 is the 8th year of the Eisenhower era. America, the promised land. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye. The gross national product was never grosser. The country is satisfied with its more perfect union. America has established justice, provided for the common defense, promoted the general welfare, secured the blessings of liberty to its citizenry and posterity. America is grateful to its president. There's been peace since Korea and prosperity at home. Ike is father figure to the world. Abroad, the campaign to rouse the world against the evils of communism has lost its appeal. And Ike, with his famous grin, seems out of step with the times.
I am not by any manner of means despairing, but I do say that the United States itself must be strong, and it must be strong morally or spiritually.
Ike continues to call for moral leadership. But nobody seems to be listening.
While we tell about folks who live in the town of Greenback, they never had to work on hands and knees. Plus live in a place where money grows on trees.
Like it says on the 50-cent piece, in God we trust, all others pay cash. America the affluent.
Make a bet now. Pick a spot anywhere you like. Here we go.
It's easy come and easy go. No one blows a fast buck faster.
Oh, my God.
191.
Will the Dow Jones Industrial crack 1,000? You can bet your sweet life it will.
At 1350. 75 bits. At 40.
Be a man, buy on margin. Be a man, sell short. Be a little man. Lose your shirt.
1500 bid at 15.
When the market closes, live a little. A show for the tired businessman. Belly up to the bar, boys. The entertainment is tax exempt. These celluloid discs cost a nickel apiece. There's millions in their music. It's okay to have a racket so long as it's a legitimate racket. Dick Clark, idol of the teenagers, makes a bundle from the record companies whose discs he spins. On television, the quiz shows give away $64,000 for the answer to a single question. And here's the big winner. Charles Van Doren, instructor in English, Columbia University. Son of a great American scholar, heir to the finest in American life. What's a nice guy like you doing in a place like this? He's cheating. That's what he's doing. The quiz is cooked. He knows the answers before he goes on the air. A loser squeals, and the professor doesn't get away with it. He tells a congressional committee why he came clean.
But what really swung me over the line, what really tipped the scales, was a letter that I got from a woman who'd seen me on Today, on the Garraway show. She never met me, but I had the feeling she knew everything anyway. Her letter was very intelligent, and it moved me very much. And in it she said, you must, in order to live with yourself, tell the truth. That's the only way a man can live, is with the truth. Well, as I say,
When Charles Van Doren finally tells the truth, it's a little late, and he is pilloried for it.
It was all very clear. And I went to bed that night, and...
It's early dawn in Central Asia. Francis Gary Powers climbs into a strange-looking plane. Its code name is U-2. It carries special cameras for a dangerous mission. Pilot Powers works for the Central Intelligence Agency. His mission is to fly the shortest distance between 2 points. One is in Pakistan, the other in Norway. In between lie 5,000 miles of Soviet Union. He's a spy in the Soviet sky. At 60,000 feet, the Russians can't shoot him down. But life is full of surprises. They can, and they do. The State Department says a weather plane has strayed off course, but Khrushchev knows better. In Moscow, he shows off the evidence. He's got the plane, he's got the goods, he's even got the pilot. The Americans, Khrushchev tells the deputies, will have to think up a different story. State Department now makes a partial concession.
It appears that in endeavoring to obtain information now concealed behind the Iron Curtain, a flight over Soviet territory was probably undertaken by an unarmed civilian U-2 plane.
In Moscow, Pilot Powers goes on trial for his life.
I realize that I've committed a grave crime, and I realize that I must be punished for it. I plead with the court to judge me not as an enemy, but as a human being.
He gets 10 years, and the Monday morning quarterbacks have their say. 2 of them are Lester Pearson and Barry Goldwater.
It was pretty stupid on the part of the United States, if I may say so, for getting itself in a position before the summit conference that the Soviet could exploit an incident of this kind.
How can you negotiate with people who have shot down numbers of our planes? How can you negotiate with people who tell lies and who do not fulfill their solemn obligations? I don't think you can gain anything by going to the summit with these type of people. I think we ought to realize in this country that we're in a Cold War and we better be in this war to win it.
If you do this kind of thing, collect intelligence, you should do it intelligently.
But Khrushchev has the last word. There will be no summit conference, he tells Ike. Ike's proposed trip to the Soviet Union, invitation withdrawn. Now Ike is counting on a trip to Japan to strengthen his hand in Asia.
The goodwill aspect of a visit by a head of government can frequently bring about favorable results far transcending those of normal diplomatic conferences.
But at Tokyo Airport, his advance men run into trouble. A mob of demonstrators demand that Ike stay home. The president's men have to be rescued by a helicopter. What if this happened to the President of the United States? Japan backs down. The government withdraws its invitation. But at the Colosseum in Rome, where lions once ate Christians, American athletes gain prestige for their country. At the Summer Olympic Games, America wins the competition for gold medal. Albert Camus, Nobel Prize winner, the existential man, dies in a car crash in France. He fought against the Nazis. He fought against oppression in Algeria. He was a man who lived with death. Perhaps that's why he wrote so passionately about capital punishment, what he called the devastating, degrading fear that the condemned man knows. For months, for years, a punishment more terrible than death. These are the hands of Carroll Chessman. He was condemned to die for kidnapping in 1948. For 11 years, 344 days, 6 hours, Chessman lives in death row in San Quentin, a few steps from this chamber. Then the state of California straps him in a chair and turns on the gas.
Over my head, I see freedom in the air.
The lynching tree, which had claimed hundreds of Negro lives in this century, by 1960 finds only occasional use. The Supreme Court has decreed the end of segregation, but no court can compel a change in the human heart.
There are a lot of phonies who will stand up and tell you that, oh, well, all are equal in the eyes of God. How silly can you get? Christ himself was the greatest teacher of segregation. You never yet found a blackbird in a bluebird's nest, unless he was there to steal the eggs. And it applies to any animal that lives. You mix with your own kind.
The Knights of the Ku Klux Klan dispense their poison, and educated blacks begin to question their future in America.
If we're going to continue as a racist society where Negroes are to be subservient and discriminated against, if I determine that this is the way the society is going, I'm leaving. I will not bring up my son in this sort of environment. I don't feel he deserves that. It is not going to get better here. And I think we have just a few more years to determine whether or not it's in the national interest to live up to the American dream that all people are born equal and all people have equal opportunities, and this is a democratic society, then I think I best leave.
But if black Americans leave America, where are they to go? In the 60s, they began to talk about going back to Africa, from whence their ancestors came as slaves. Much of the dark continent still lies in the shadow of superstition. Few Negroes would feel comfortable here. But the winds of change whistle across the African landscape. The old imperial flags are torn away, like washing on a line with a storm breaking. After it passes, 17 new nations are left behind. One is Nigeria, a federation not yet torn apart by the secession of Biafra. The retreating colonialists leave gifts behind them, as should any departing guest who has overstayed his welcome. Happiest to see them go is Patrice Lumumba, in full formal fig, first Prime Minister of the Congo. He wants a socialist state, expropriation of the giant Belgian mining companies. But his government can't govern. Independent celebrations give way to chaos and riots. The army takes over. Lumumba, under house arrest, tries to escape. He doesn't make it. With United Nations troops standing by, the deposed Prime Minister is beaten. He is not seen alive again. Alive and well in the eastern Congo is Moise Tshombe, who with the support of the mining companies led his province of Katanga out of the Congo. Tshombe inspects his motley band of mercenaries. Fine body of men you have there, Colonel. The flag of Katanga flutters for only a few months, long enough to demonstrate that for the new African states, the end of colonialism does not automatically bring the end of troubles. All they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Hendrik Vervoort, South Africa's Prime Minister, is shot in the head in Johannesburg. He survives. This time. Vervoort enforces a policy called apartheid. It ensures that the black man shall work as indentured labor for the white man. In the town of Sharpeville on March 21st, 1960, a crowd of blacks has gathered at the police station to protest apartheid. They are peaceful. They carry no weapons. There are children playing in the crowd. Suddenly the police open fire. The crowd flees in panic. 40 seconds, 700 bullets. Nearly 300 black men and women and children shot, most of them in the back. 67 lie dead. The most frightful of all spectacles, the strength of civilization without its mercy. Marriage is a culturally approved sexual relationship of one man and one woman, monogamy. Of one man and two or more women, polygamy. Of one woman and two or more men, polyandry. Marriage transactions are always publicly acknowledged, even underwater. In 1960, 3,314,768 men and women are married in North America, usually on dry land, all of them monogamously. And 842,736 are divorced, none so far underwater. This lovely bride wears a charming bouffant veil of white tulle. But that's all she wears.
I, Margaret Rose.
I, Margaret Rose.
Take thee, Anthony Charles Roberts.
Take thee, Anthony Charles Roberts.
To my wedded husband.
To my wedded husband.
I pronounce that they be man and wife together in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost.
The divinity that doth hedge a king hedges Tony Armstrong Jones. Princess Margaret has finally found a man the royal family will accept, and Britain bathes in adulation.
Out they go to the wedding champagne of London's cheers. Cheers for a happy princess. Cheers for a smiling and assured young man who not long ago must have walked through these same streets unknown and unnoticed. Now countless thousands wave to him. This is the very stuff of romance.
Simone Signoret, Best Actress, an Oscar for that older woman in Room at the Top. Remember the Alamo? John Wayne won't forget in a hurry. He lost a bundle as Davy Crockett, the man in the coonskin hat who slaughtered Mexicans by the hundred. Marlon Brando is One-Eyed Jackson, and should have known better. Monroe and Gable, together at last. The Misfits, the final film for two great stars. Marlene Dietrich revisits Germany, which she fled 30 years before. They haven't seen her since before the war. It's a triumph for the gorgeous grandma. The fads of affluence help relieve its boredom. You have to work hard to play. In the 60s, art moved out of the museums and produced a new form of popular culture. The art of the put-on. You don't have to understand art to know what you like. This rocket engine can blast a man to the moon or a city into oblivion. The power and influence of the military is a growing concern of the nation. In his final address, President Eisenhower issued a warning. His bluntness surprises many.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
It is the age of overkill, and every year the generals demand more weapons to obliterate the other side. In the early 60s, many missiles misfire. But those that do work, American or Russian, are enough to incinerate the earth. At Aldermaston, up the Thames from London, there's a nuclear power station. A ragged platoon would march there once a year at Easter. They sang songs, pushed prams, made love, not war. No one took them very seriously. In 1960, 100,000 marched to ban the bomb. They are taken very seriously indeed. Their spokesman has the most logical mind of the 20th century. It belongs to Bertrand Russell.
American Orthodox authorities, such as Herman Kahn, took the same view as I did, that the British nuclear weapon was perfectly futile and it might just as well be abolished. That was the Orthodox American view. And it was only British national pride that made us reject that view. It was not any consideration of strategy or who would win or anything. Purely and solely a piece of national pride.
On Hyde Park Corner, the intellectuals agree.
Flick, Click, 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 click. Just one more click, my friends, and you and I may have been radioactive ash today. If you believe that the United States bomb deters on our behalf, would you tell me what the hell we've got one for?
We want one made in Britain.
We want one made in Britain. Yes, think how happy the little Russian children be when they know they're going to be blown to bits by a British-made bomb. The finest workmanship in the world.
Oh, Sergeant, I'm a drafty and I've just arrived in camp. I've come to wear the uniform and join the martial tramp. And I want to do my duty, but one thing I do implore. You must give me lessons, Sergeant, for I've never killed before.
The protest against war and violence moves across the country like a prairie fire. And the fire is fanned by song. Tom Paxton's ballad, Teach Me How to Kill, becomes a rallying cry for a new generation of young people who reject the old concepts of loyalty to their country, for a new old philosophy of nonviolent resistance.
Well, I want to thank you, Sergeant, for the help you've been to me. You've taught me how to kill and how to hate the enemy. And I know that I'll be ready when they march me off to war. And I know that it won't matter that I've never killed before. I know that it won't matter that I've never killed before.
The best show on earth is the election of an American president. It takes a great country to stand this sort of thing every 4 years.
There are 4 key qualities by which I believe America would like to measure the candidates in this election. They are character, ability, responsibility, experience. From 8 years of intimate association, I know Richard Nixon has these qualities and will use them.
After months of faint praise, Ike pulls out the stops for his boy.
And I know he will use these qualities wisely and decisively. And so will Cabot Lodge.
Now the battle to pick the man to beat Nixon. No one tries harder than Hubert Humphrey. But when you run for president, you're not marked for effort. You're marked for results.
No money for television, no money for printing. I say, where are the buttons? We have no money. So I say, all right, we'll just knock off the whole day, cancel out the program, and we'll get on this telephone. I'll call my friends in Minnesota. We'll call them in New York. We'll call them in Washington. We've got to raise the money.
Adlai Stevenson, 2-time loser, a Hamlet in politics, feels the urge again. He's got the gallery, but it's too late to get the delegates. He wins their affection instead of their votes and goes out like he came in, laughing.
After getting in and out of the Biltmore Hotel and this hall, I've decided that I know who you're going to nominate. It will be the last survivor.
The delegates are pledged to John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Bobby and Teddy work hard to elect the country's first Catholic president. It isn't all done in the smoke-filled rooms. Some of the wheeling and dealing is done in front of the cameras, right out there on the floor. Lyndon doesn't like it, but losers can't be choosers.
As an American, as a Democrat, as a warm, good friend, I am proud to stand beside and stand behind the next President of the United States, Jack Kennedy.
What's Jack got that the rest haven't got? The matinee face, the bright white teeth, the Kennedy name, the Kennedy fortune, a lovely wife, the will to win, and the man within, whoever he might be.
people of the
Now the
United
campaign to
States
put the man within on show.
have finally caught up with the promises that have been made by our opponents. They realize that it's a modern medicine man show, a Pied Piper from Boston, and they're not going to go down that road.
I run against a candidate who reminds me of the symbol of his party, the circus elephant, his head full of ivory, a long memory and no vision, and you have seen elephants being led around the circus ring. They grab the tail of the elephant in front of them.
The candidates fling themselves upon the nation. There are 50 states now in these United States, and it's risky to pass one up. It's a grueling campaign. Kennedy seems to thrive on it. Nixon hurts his leg, winds up in hospital, but he fights gamely on. Nixon accepts Kennedy's challenge to debate on television. There are 70 million viewers, almost as many as for the World Series.
Okay. Now, are you leaving the morning? No, I leave at the first thing in the morning.
There isn't any question.
For Nixon, everything goes wrong. His advisors put in special lights and repaint the backdrop a darker shade of gray. But he looks haggard. His makeup fails to hide the dark stubble of his beard. And he scores debating points instead of offering a vision for the nation.
Because if we have Khrushchev in this country, a man who has enslaved millions, a man who has slaughtered thousands, we cannot continue to have a situation where he can point the finger at the United States of America and say that we are denying rights to our citizens.
What will be the leadership of the president in these areas providing...
Kennedy is calm and nerveless, quickly destroying Nixon's argument that he is too young and inexperienced to be president.
...supported housing by a stroke of the president's pen. What will be done to provide equality of education in all sections of the United States? Those are the questions to which the president must establish a moral tone and moral leadership.
Kennedy wins by 122,000 votes. Nixon concedes.
That certainly, if this trend does continue and he does become our next president, that he will have my wholehearted support and yours too.
So now my wife and I prepare for a new administration and for a new baby. Thank you.
The president's full term runs 1,461 days. John Kennedy's lies before him. Less 461.